Hello, welcome to Mr. Bob's Builds. Today I'm going to do a very quick update on where I am with the various projects I'm doing, and also to look forward to the next figure I'm going to enter into the non-military figure build on International Scale Modeler Forum. First up, we'll take a look at the Mirage Hobbies HMS Anchusa. If you've seen the review I did of this, I was really quite keen on the kit when it was in its parts in the box. But I think I must have done that review with a bit of the old rose tinted spectacles on, because whereas I thought the parts were relatively free of flash, once I got into the build and started taking the small parts off, there was quite a bit of flash around some of the smaller parts. The bigger parts were easy to clean up, but the smaller parts a little bit more difficult. Also, there's some very fine parts, plastic parts on the sprues, and the nature of the plastic itself is a bit strange. It's quite soft, and it's prone to distort or even break when taking off the sprue. To illustrate that, I've turned the boat round. Now, the fact that parts break may well be just an indication of my general clumsiness. I'm perfectly happy to accept that. But here you see a crane which is used to lift these depth charges up onto the instruments to propel the charges overboard into the sea. Now, this part here is snapped off. I've still got the part, and I'll probably add it at the end, so it'll all come good. The whole sections went together very nicely, and a bit of filler was required just to make sure that there were no gaps when the painting came, and we can see that on the stern of the ship as well, where the two joints come together. I put a tiny bit of plastic at the top where it meets the top of the ship rail there, because I think there was a tiny bit of a gap, but I think it looks good now. I'll add the propellers and rudders as a last scene, because you never know, I'll probably knock them off if I didn't. The bow of the ship is quite nice, so that fit together very nicely. In general, the fit of the deck parts to the hull was very good. There's a few gaps that you can see here, which I filled with a tiny bit of plastic, and here, and of course at the very front, which I'll touch up with a bit of filler before I paint. On the subject of painting, I realise now I'm sort of part way into the build that it might be better to paint the superstructure parts before fitting to the boat, but I'm part of the way along now, and I'm going to be happy enough to paint it when we get to the end. The very first photo etch bit has gone on. I don't know if you can see, I'll point it out just there on that funnel. I've got some more small parts made up, but they're in a parts box at the moment, and I'll fit them on at the end, and you'll see much more of that when I do my next update. Well, so overall, a bit more problematical than I thought it might be when I opened the box. The parts weren't as clean as I first thought they were, but they clean up okay. But they are very fragile, very soft plastic. Okay, I'll do more on this when I've had a bit more progress. Next up, we have a couple of figures that I've finished off in the last couple of weeks. When I went to my figures stash to look for another model to enter into the International Scale Modeler Forum non-military figure group build, I stumbled across these two chaps, which I'd primed, goodness knows when, back in the midst of time, probably about a year ago, and then got distracted and forgot about. So I thought while the boat was gluing together and setting up, I'd put a bit of paint on there. I'm really quite pleased with them, really. The chap with the sword is a Hasslefree miniatures figure, which costs about £5. I'll put the actual name of the figure and a link on the paper below. And the chef, which I've painted in a sort of a toy style to suit his pose, is an O gauge British O-gauge model railway figure. It's quite a static figure, but you don't see many figures of chef characters. And as a man who earned a living in a kitchen for about 25 years, I do like a cookery subject. First, I'll have a look at the Hasslefree figure. Now, he's an elf lord of some sort or other, and it's 28mm tall figure, and it's extremely well detailed. The hands and the sword are a little bit out of scale, but that's not unusual for figures of this scale and this sort of genre. It's got a very nice, I don't know if you can see it, I'll put some photographs on the forum for close-ups, but it's got a very nicely detailed face, with very nice armour plating on the front and also on the back plate. If I turn that around, I hope the camera's going to stay in focus for this. My camera is just an ordinary stills camera with a video function, so it's not the best for this sort of thing. Oh yeah, it seems to be focusing okay. And I try to keep the colour scheme together sort of with reds and purples and blues, and I think it's come together very nicely. I'm very, very pleased with it. The base is the back base, or I don't know if you can see, just pull it back a bit. The base is a resin casting which cost £1. It's a very, very nice thing. And on top of that there's some slates, well they're meant to be slates, which was made out of some putty which has been rolled out and dried. A little bit of scenic on it just to add colour to the figure, because I thought it needed it. The only part of the figure that I'm not particularly happy with is the sword itself. The hilt is nice. I quite like that. I used some metallic wax that my wife uses for card making, and it buffs up beautifully now. But the main part of the sword, I wanted to try non-metallic metals, and I haven't pushed it far enough. There's not enough contrast in there. I might go back to that and have a go. I tipped the edge with a little tiny bit of metallic silver just to make that sparkle. Okay, that's that one. As I said, I'll put some photographs up on the website for it. And this is the Omen chef, which again was only £3 or £4, which I bought at a model railway show, and was very taken with it because, as I said, as an ex-professional cook, cookery subjects are fascinating, and you don't often see very many models of them. So when I bought this chap, I was very, very pleased, and his pose is very static, but it's nicely sculpted and it looks the part. So I thought I'd make it a very simple paint job, a couple of base coats and some shading, but didn't go to the extent that I did with the Hasslefree figure. He's got some nice detail. He's got his oven cloth there, or rubber as we used to call them in the kitchens. And I picked out his, let's see if that's going to focus up again, perhaps it's not. I'll stop it and then come back. That's better. And I picked his neckerchief out in red just to give it a bit of colour. Again, the base is one of those resin jobs, just painted up. A little bit of putty on the top, scribe to make it look like the tiles that are in most kitchens. Very nice, I think. More pictures on the forum. Next up, and finally I think, we come to the next figure I'm going to be doing for the group build on the International Scale Model Forum. And this is a super little figure by a company called Origen Art, who I'd never heard of until about a month ago when I first came across this figure. It comes in a traditional blister pack, and the figure is nicely cushioned against some foam on the other side. Now I put the Typically it won't stay there when you're talking to it. Put the tam in a bottle there just to show the scale of this thing. It's quite small. It's a couple of inches from top of the head there to the bottom of the torso. I'm going to do an in-depth review of this separately, which will probably be posted in a few days. But my immediate impressions are that it's a beautiful little figure. I've seen it painted up, and I'll put a photograph of someone else's effort on it, and I'll talk about it more when I review it. There is a but to it. There always seems to be a but with these things, and I'll tell you all about that when we get there. As promised, this is the photograph of the figure which has been completed by someone else. The photograph was taken at this year's Euro Militaire. I think the model has been painted by a figure artist called Marta Sluzarska. Now, if that's the wrong pronunciation of your name, Marta, I humbly apologise. It's a wonderful piece of work. I really like what Marta has done with this figure. I'm going to be doing something completely different, but this is an inspiration. I aim to post my review of this figure quite soon, hopefully within a week. If you want to discuss anything that's in this video or any of my other entries onto YouTube, or if you've got any questions about their content, or perhaps just want to chew the modelling cud in general, use the YouTube comments section. I'll check back from time to time and keep in touch with you. Or even pay a visit to my dedicated YouTube discussion forum on International Scale Modeler. Well, that's it for now. If you've got this far, well done. I hope you found something of interest. So, goodbye for now. Thank you for watching. Come back soon.